Welcome back into One on One, New York's longest running sports call-in show. I'm Andrew Gullotta alongside Jack Roche, and we are joined by new Fordham Baseball alum, unanimous 2021 All-American, A-10 Pitcher of the Year, and now the 50th overall selection by the San Francisco Giants in this year's MLB Draft. Matt Mikulski, how you doing, Matt?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
And you just start, looking at all those accolades. That's just, you can go for forever to name them, but I want to start by saying congratulations for being selected by the Giants in the draft. And I want to ask you about what that feeling was like when you finally got the call saying that you were going to be joining the Giants.
It was just kind of just all the work, all the dedication, all the sacrifice, proven to myself that it was worth it, and I think, like you said, all that stuff came along this year, but at the same time, I was just going into this year, and the one thing I wanted so badly was just to be the A-10 pitcher of the year, and I think just having that one goal and then everything else coming afterwards, I think I knew if I took care of that, everything else would come as well. So, yeah.
Matt, I was hoping you could take us back to last year's draft, not getting selected where you wanted to go, and how you were able to make the adjustments that helped you reach the point that you're at now.
Yeah, obviously last year's draft was disappointing. It was kind of a crazy draft, being a 5-round draft, going from 40 to 5. And, after not going, kind of looked at myself in the mirror, and I kind of knew right away that I was coming back to Fordham, told Coach Layton that I was coming right back, and for me, it didn't make sense jumping in the portal. That's just not the type of person who I am. Like, I'm a loyal guy, and they believed in me when I was this 5'8", 165-pound kid in high school, and I believed in them. So I definitely already had that in my mind, and just looking at myself in the mirror, just thinking, what can I do to separate myself from the pack, especially being from a Fordham, being a mid-major guy. I know I have to work above and beyond to get that recognition. But at the same time, for me, it wasn't like, oh, I need to prove everybody wrong. Like, it was more so like, I need to prove myself right, and because I know what I see when I look in the mirror, and that's pretty much it, and I think we made the necessary adjustments, me and my team back at home. And yeah, it was very easy for people to be like, oh, it was the short arm action that's why he's throwing harder and stuff like that. But for me, it was like, it wasn't just that, it was all of that accumulating together. I think like the short arm action helped me stay into my bottom half a little bit more, and I think staying in my bottom half a little bit more helped me get more velocity, more command on most of my pitches. And then obviously with the shorter arm action, I saw immediately like all my stuff was sharper and harder. So I think like from that, not only did it give me more confidence than I already had, but it was just like, all right, like I can prove to myself that I could throw 4 pitches for a strike, so.
No. Yeah, and Jack, he asked about obviously the draft and the COVID and all that stuff, and obviously you had your season 2020 cut short. How do you feel like that affected you personally with being able to grow, maybe have a little more time in the off season because the season was truncated? Did you feel like that helped? Did that hurt your rhythm maybe, as it's obviously a very abnormal year? Like, was that something that really changed maybe how you went about things?
Well, I mean, I think obviously when the year ended, the COVID year ended, I had some 4 like really good starts. And then I actually just kept going. Like I came home and I would like sneak onto my high school field and like keep throwing and keep doing my routine every single day. And then especially when I got up to the draft, like I was just getting more and more prepared just in case I did get drafted and I was going to get shipped off somewhere. But then obviously it didn't happen. So I took about like a 10-day break, and then that's when it was kind of just like, all right, back to the drawing board and kind of getting back to work. And that one question kind of just kept coming back into my head. What can I do to separate myself from the rest of the pack? And like one of the things was to throw harder more consistently. And like my junior year, I was probably 92, 94, touching 95. This year I was more so like 94 to 97, touching 98, 99. So like, I think going to the drawing board, I wanted to do what I needed to do, and I ended up doing it. And I think that's why, like you said, with all those accolades, I think that's a reason why all those accolades came, because I told myself that I was going to do something and I went out there and did it. So.
You mentioned that shorter arm action, and I've heard you toss out guys named like Lucas Giolito, Robbie Ray, watching tape of those guys. And I was just curious if there were any other big leaguers that you've been able to draw inspiration from or learn something from them.
Yeah, I mean, another one of those guys in that group was Zach Plesac. I think that was more so with the short arm action stuff. But like for me, when I'm trying to focus on picking guys off, like I'm looking at Andy Pettit, or if I'm looking at somebody who's got a lot of fire, I'm looking at a CC Sabathia, so like I try and look at lefties obviously and try and just get my game from each and every little bit. Like I try and make my curveball as much as like Barry Zito's curveball, and I think like just taking little bits and pieces from everybody and trying to make myself into the best version I could possibly be. I think that's something that a lot of people sleep on. You could obviously, a lot of people have confidence in themselves. I have extreme confidence in myself, but there was guys who came before me, and there's going to be guys who come after me who are going to be doing the same thing. And with guys before me, like you could always learn from, doesn't matter what era of baseball they played in, you could always learn. So I think that was the biggest thing. And also like a Dallas Keuchel fielding wise, like I think that was the one thing that I wanted to do a lot better this year as well, was to field my position a lot better. And I think like the numbers showed with that as well. I don't think I made an error on the year. So.
Yeah, so I want to go into your dominant 2021 campaign. I actually called one of your games, and I remember seeing all the scouts with the guns and all of that, and they're obviously a lot of eyes on you. What was that like, just quickly moving up draft boards so quickly, your publicity growing? What was that for you, obviously having a ton of success and seeing maybe, your name rise and shoot up those draft boards?
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I went up to the Cape, it's nothing new to me. So I saw like a lot of guns pointed at me and stuff like that. A lot of people at games and stuff. So I think for me, like that just adds a fire in me, and especially this year when we go to away games, or even like when I wasn't pitching or somebody else on our team's pitching and there's no one there, So for me, it was like, all right, like this gets me up and going, and at the same time, like it's still that voice in the back of my head, like I got to prove everybody right, and like I got to prove myself right and prove everybody else wrong, So I think like having that experience and having people at those games, I couldn't think Mr. Cole like anymore. I mean, he's a big reason why those scouts were able to come to the games and stuff like that. And yeah, it was definitely different just because it was just scouts there. But at the same time, like I think it was more so just, all right, like it's back to showcase ball. Like I'm showcasing my talents, and every single time I come out here, like I got to prove that these kids don't even deserve to be in the box against me. So, yeah.
You're a lefty who can hit upper 90s with 4 pitches in the arsenal, which is something that very few guys can boast. What are you going to have to do to continue to evolve in the San Francisco system?
I think for me is just fine tuning the armor. I think I throw a plus slider, I throw a plus changeup, and I think that curveball that I throw at the same time is a change of pace pitch, and I could throw it anywhere, anytime, and I think for me, the confidence is always there. The mental confidence is always there. And I think my mental toughness is uncompared to anybody else, and I think for that being said, like, I think what I need to work on the most is just going out there and keep working hard, and keep fine tuning the armor, keep throwing everything with command, and be consistent. I think that was the one thing that I did really well this year in my 2021 campaign. If you look at my freshman, sophomore, maybe even a little bit of my junior year highlights, like it was a little inconsistent, So I think this year, my senior year, I was the most consistent I've ever been on a baseball field. And I think if I'm able to just keep that going, I think the sky's the limit, you know?
And as you said, sky's the limit, and I completely agree with that. And obviously, you have a bright future ahead. But I want to look, a little rewind a bit at your time at Fordham, as through all the accolades, the awards, the team doing well in the 2019 A10 title. Was there one thing that stuck out, one moment, one memory that really stuck out to you at your time at Fordham?
I'll give you two. First one is my sophomore year, obviously thrown in that A10 championship game. That season was just a very, very special season, from being a pretty mediocre team at the halfway mark. And then with our last 3 weekends, we had to win 7 of our last 9 games, won 7 of our last 9 games, made the playoffs. And then I would say that moment was starting in the A10 championship game as a sophomore and striking out the side against Dayton, a team that, a week before put up 8 runs on me. And that was probably my worst start of my career, and I think I went out there with kind of just that chip on my shoulder, like I always have, and kind of going out there, striking out the side the first inning, and then just being like, all right, like game on, and I think obviously moving forward to that, throwing in the West Virginia game, that was just a crazy memory I'll never forget. Obviously I didn't start that game, but still went in there and did my job, and that was another memory that I'll never forget. And then finally, I think the one last memory that I'll never forget is the last game of my Fordham career, going out there, breaking the strikeout record, single season and career. And then at the same time, that last inning, as a Fordham Ram, going through my head, it's not the championships that I've won or the stuff that I've done as an amateur and the tournaments that I won as a high schooler and stuff. But I think going through my head in that 7th inning against Bonaventures is all the guys that I'm still friends with to this day. That's what kind of was making me emotional in that last inning, and then throwing that last pitch and striking that last kid out and just kind of being like, there it is. That's the amateur career, and yeah, those are a couple memories for me. And obviously off the field, like those guys that we won the championship with in 2019, like I still text them to this day. Every single one of them texting me congratulations, and like those are my brothers until the day I die, and I can't wait to get back to Fordham for us to celebrate and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just a lot of great memories at Fordham, and I wear it as a little badge of pride on my sleeve, especially when I'm going to these like draft combines and even the draft itself, being the mid-major guy that's here, and that's something that I'll wear on my sleeve for the rest of my life, the rest of my career,
A unanimous 2020 All-American, A10 Pitcher of the Year, and now a member of the San Francisco Giants organization. Thank you for joining us, Matt.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
And definitely good luck on your career. We'll be right back on One-on-One, New York's longest running sports call-in show.